open this up as you see right here. Take our CPU, push it in place. So that looks good to me. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today on this episode of Newegg Now, I'm going to be checking out the Intel Core i7-12700K. I did purchase the CPU myself, and any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this product, you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. You can see the nice retail box and packaging right here for our CPU. This is an unlocked desktop CPU with integrated graphics. They also make a version available if you don't want the integrated graphics. That's going to be labeled 12700KF or 12700F. So there's multiple versions available depending on your needs. This also features 12 cores. 8 of those cores are going to be performance cores. 4 of those cores are going to be very efficient cores that are great to handle background tasks on your computer. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and look at the contents. Here are all the contents. First up, you can see we have our Intel Core i7 sticker on our user guide right here, walking us through their disclaimers and safety information. And they have their installation instructions right here, walking us through the couple of steps necessary to get it installed on our motherboard. And lastly, they have warranty information for you as well with their customer service and contact info. Next, you can see we have the CPU itself right here. So let's bring it up to the camera. You can see Intel Core i7-12700K with our relevant information. So check that out. So that's everything that's included. Now let's go ahead, let's get it installed. Now it's time to install our CPU. You can see the motherboard that we're using here. The first thing you want to do is identify this little triangle icon that you see here and match it up with your CPU. So in this case, you can see we have a couple different triangle icons, one right on here and one right here in the bottom left-hand corner. If you're looking at the chip from the top and reading it, that'll be your left-hand corner right down there. You can see one and one right there. So we're going to line that up with that guy. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just open this up as you see right here. Take our CPU, just gently push it in place. So that looks good to me. Everything's lined up as you'd expect. Now we're ready to take this cover. You can see everything's popping off for us. And there we go. We should be able to remove this. So it wasn't as graceful as I want it to be, but there you go. You can see we have successfully installed our CPU. Now let's go ahead and try it out. All right, so check it out. You can see we have our completed PC right here. The build turned out great. No issues at all whatsoever. Posted on the first try. Really happy with how everything came together. Now let's go ahead, let's look at the build in more detail. So now you can see everything from the side right here. It really came together nicely. Plenty of room to route and manage our cables properly from the side or down below and up through the shroud. We have our visible power supply cover right here. I like that we can see in there, especially if you get a fancy one with some RGB or maybe a screen on it. But we have a nice shroud to still keep it quiet, cool, and separate from our build. Plenty of room on the side for additional expansion or maybe some custom water cooling. You can see the additional fan we added for an exhaust fan here. And check out the glow from our cooler, top notch. The fans look so nice and the cooler illuminates as well too. You may notice the RAM is not synced up with the rest of the fans. That's because that's being controlled by the motherboard, whereas everything else is being controlled by the controller and the case itself because that's how we set it up. So if we wanted this to match, we would have to configure that separately within our motherboard light settings, which the Asus Aura light is a great option, so we wouldn't have any issues there changing it to a blue or rainbow or whatever we wanted to match maybe the theme of the rest of the build. Also want to point out at this step while we're looking at everything, if you are going to buy some RAM, you might want to get some low profile RAM depending on the size of the cooler you're going to use. Space is definitely a delicacy at the top here. So everything works great, but if we wanted to remove the RAM or upgrade the RAM right now, we'd actually have to take off the radiator. Not that big of a deal, but just keep that in mind. You could get some lower profile RAM. But again, plenty of room if you want a larger graphics card, additional expansion. We can still get to some of our M.2 bays right here too. So really have plenty of room to grow into this build. Now it's time for our handheld camera here, going up close and personal to our build. So first up, we have our HD audio connected down there. Moving along the board, you can see we have our fan connected and we have our front panel connected. They even label everything for you right there. Then we have our USB 3.0 connected. And keep in mind, we do have an unused USB Type-C connector. Then you can see we have our main power. Moving along, we have our beautiful radiator. Look at how cool that is with our awesome illuminated pump housing that matches. We have our CPU power connected up there. And then those two cables coming down here that need to be tidied up are our CPU fan and our AIO pump. They are connected off to the side. Also, you may see we have our M.2 drive under there, PCIe 4.0, and we have our RTX 3060 with no RGB with our power cable coming out right there. Our additional fan that was not included that we got to use as an exhaust that matches and pairs really nicely with our cooler. And then you can see this side, if you want, of that front panel and those three fans. And there is our power supply shroud up close with this nice slot cut out for it. So check it out. Everything looks great. Beautiful RGBs in this build with plenty of additional space depending on future expansion. Now let's jump right in and look at our CPU benchmarks. So first up, you can see we have CPU Z on the screen right here where you can learn more about the processor. We'll go ahead, we'll click through every tab, so feel free to pause the video at any time if you want to see additional information about this processor. And then we're gonna make our way to the bench tab right here, and you can see our single thread test result and our multi-thread result that we got. And I pulled up this webpage so you could compare it to other CPUs that are very similar. So currently 16 threads, you can see where our 12700K lines up right here. And you can see the other CPUs that rank higher. And you can see we have a couple of the different SKUs for the 12700 series right here. And you can see where the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X comes in right below. And then same thing for single thread. So check it out. You can see our 12700K right here, very close to the top. And then you can see where some of the competition stacks up to it a little bit further down. Next up, we ran Geekbench 5. You can see our results right here. We got a score of 97.91.4. And you can view our system information. And then you can see we have our OpenCL performance and how we get that score and the individual breakdown depending on each metric that was tested. Last but not least, you can see we have our Cinebench R23 results right here for both our single core and our multi-core score. So first up for the multi-core, you can see we got a score of 21.77.6 and how that ranks with some other comparable CPUs. And then we can also look at our single core score. You can see we got a score of 19.06 and how the CPU ranks, again, compared to some other comparable CPUs with their single core results. So now let me share with you my final thoughts after using the Intel 12700K CPU. First, I gotta say, great experience with it so far, no issues at all. And I really feel like the value is there. If you're looking for a 12th gen Intel CPU, you want a lot of performance, but you still wanna save some money, this is gonna be the CPU with the best price to performance ratio if you're looking for a higher end CPU. I wouldn't feel comfortable justifying the 12900K for most people because you're gonna have to spend an additional $250 or so above what you're paying to buy this CPU to get minimal increases in performance that I wouldn't say are justified. It's best to keep that money in your pocket or maybe spend it to upgrade some other parts and components in your build. So if you're looking for a value CPU, still giving you great performance, but also having a much better value, it's gonna be the Intel 12700K. Well, that concludes our video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the product link will be in our video description below. Please go ahead, check it out, and do your shopping from there. Any purchase made through that link helps support our channel at no additional cost to you. So we're really grateful and thankful for all of your support. While you're at it, can you go ahead and hit that like button for us? And subscribe to our channel. We have new content coming out daily and we don't want you to miss anything. Please go ahead and give us a follow online and make it a clean sweep. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. You can message us on WeChat, check out our website, and join our free newsletter. Thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget, new content daily, and we can't wait to see you in our next video.